Hi, I am Celeste June. This is my channel, and I'm going to talk about some very sensitive issues in this video. I don't suggest this be shown to anyone under the age of, I don't know, maybe 20. Um, it is a very sensitive subject, but as I've always said, the purpose of my channel is to tell my story, to speak my truth, to live with transparency so that we can have the triumph. I want to give a scripture where it says that the enemy is the accuser of the brethren. And I believe that he will kind of manipulate you into a place of shame and guilt so you don't tell the deep, dark secrets. This is one of those videos of a period of my life that I do not talk about publicly. There are a few people in my life who are aware of the situation, but they don't know the dirty details. I will be careful in what I share, but if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment. Again, this video is not for children. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I hope you watched the introduction first so that you know that this is definitely not a PG video. But I always talk about the purpose of my channel is to share my story without shame and guilt so others can share theirs. So this is another one. I think a while back I talked about the abusive relationship, and I am having a very difficult time sharing some things. And that's part of the reason I kind of got off YouTube, because I know that I'm supposed to share. So here we go. I tell myself if I just start, I'll be fine. My childhood was not bad. It was challenging, though. And what people don't realize is a lot of times what you go through in your childhood, it does impact you as an adult. There is this attitude in our community that you should just get over it, let it go, don't talk about it, don't tell anyone else. That has landed me in therapy at least 4 different times. And it has also predicated, well, yeah, I guess that's the word, probably using out of context, some very poor, excuse me, some very poor adult decisions, some very poor thinking, and lies that I convinced myself, not that because of the situation I'm about to share, there were things I believed. There's a story I'm going to come back to, and that is the one about my father. And it'll be, yeah, I'll just leave that there. But my father was absent. He made the choice that we would not have a relationship at that time. My mother was a single parent, and I do still have 2 other siblings, sorry, by my mother. And our generation, I think I'm a Gen X, we were latchkey kids, and I was the oldest. I am the oldest. And I had what I would consider adult responsibilities, more or less. And I wanted to be the best for my mother. In my opinion, and Mom, if you ever see this, this is not a slight against you at all. I just wanted to be perfect for her. And for most of my life, I have felt like I failed. And that I did not reach the potential I could have. I believe because of that strive for perfection, and with the story I'm about to tell you, that's why I say a lot of, I'll say some of my adult decisions were not very good. When I was around, I want to say 9 or 10 years old, it's been a while, I was, and I don't know if YouTube's going to take this down, but I was sexually molested. And it lasted for a year. And I know people are probably wondering, how did it last that long? Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you tell your mother? The first thing is, I was a nerd. I read books. Um, I didn't really have a lot of friends. I was bullied. My world was, and I've talked about it, dancing for or performing, singing, playing records, reading books. And other than that, I cleaned, um, I cooked. Almost heard the house down once. I cooked and, ironed clothes. I made sure things were in order for my brother and sister. I was the oldest of a single parent. And at that time, maybe I was older. I'm sorry. I take that back. It was 6th to the 7th grade, and I can't remember what age they are because I'm remembering things as I'm talking. My mother had not talked to me about sex. Now, don't get me wrong. Where I grew up, the kids talked about it, but here, there, and I was a tomboy, climbing trees, whatever it was. But I was also a scared little kid because I realized I knew what people thought about me, which weren't factual. These were their own ideas. I never thought I was better than anyone. I spoke differently. I behaved differently. I loved books. So when the incident started, when the first time it happened, I didn't know what to expect. And this person was someone that I would say was trusted by the family. And the first time that it happened, I didn't know what was happening to me. There was a moment in my head where, because I didn't understand, I thought it was normal. I didn't realize what this man, and it was a man, was doing to me. What I do remember is, sorry. After the incident, the way my body felt, it was painful. Again, I was 6th going to the 7th grade. And I remember just not saying anything and was told I could never tell, my mom. And I didn't. It wasn't only him not telling me. Well, telling me not to tell my mother, but it was also my mother and I had a strained relationship. I did not believe. Honestly, I just thought my mother was always angry at me. And because of what my father did, the abandonment. And that's where the perfection came in, because I thought if I could just get it right, she would love me. But I was a child, and my mother was doing the best she could. And don't get me wrong, I love my mother. I am grateful for her. She's one of the most giving women I know. So I want to make sure that that is clear. I wish I had been smarter. I wish I had known what was happening. How would I have responded if I knew? I don't know. I really don't know. But that was the first night. And I'm leaving out some details because I am protecting others, to put it that way. This did continue. And because I journal, like I said, I've been a writer forever. I wrote everything down in my diary to the letter. It happened over and over and over again. And there's so much more I wish I could say. But like I said, I can't share some things because it would hurt some people. And I don't want their lives to be impacted by my story. But it did happen over and over and over again. And even to the point where this guy, this man, became bolder and bolder about approaching me. And like I said, it was somebody that I thought I could trust, not understanding that this was not normal. I remember, and this is about the time, kids were talking about sex, and I was like, okay. And listening, I put, kind of put it together. And I actually got bold enough to say and ask him, say, how could you do this? What if I got pregnant or what? And I don't know where that boldness came from, but I started getting in his face about it. But I was still afraid to say anything to my mother because at one point he came to the home. He came to the home, and my mother was going to the store, and my siblings went with her, and I was left at home alone while he and I waited for them to come back from the store. And he took me into my mother's bedroom. And I remember him blocking the door. And and I don't know how to put this, but it happened again. I'll put it that way. My mother came back sooner than he expected. And I had to get dressed, and I was only undressed from the bottom down. And there was this wild reasoning that he gave, and I just scurried away. This went on, and I remember talking to a friend of mine. I was in science class in the 7th grade, and I sat beside her, and I said, hey, this is what's going on. And she said to me, Celeste, I don't think that's normal. And I said, it's not? She said, no. I don't know how much later, but it was very soon after my mother was about to take us to my grandparents. And I said to her in the car, because I was in the back seat, I think. I said, hey, Mama, I need to tell you something. And she said, Celeste, what is it? And her whole demeanor and tone just changed. And all I could think about is, oh my gosh, I have disappointed my mother again. So she kept asking me, Celeste, what is it? And I believe my brother and sister were in the back seat, or I was in the back seat. But anyway, we were all in the car, and I didn't want to say it in front of them, but I said such and such touched me, or I said something similar to that. I'm laughing because I remember my mother's expression, and that Pontiac was flying down the road. She dropped us off as our grandparents, and she was like, I'll be back. What I learned the next day, I don't know what happened, but I learned the next day that this person was confronted. Uh, Never saw this person in the neighborhood again. Um, and because I was so afraid that my mother did not believe me, I actually brought her my diary and said, Mom, I didn't lie. I promise you I didn't lie. I wrote everything down, and it was like pages and pages and pages and pages. And she did believe me. She dealt with it immediately. I have carried that for so long, and I still carry it, not intentionally, not as a weight, I guess, but as I don't know how to describe it. 99.9% of the time, I'm good. But when I get to the point like now and sharing because somebody else has been through what I've been through, and you expect them to get over it, and I promise you they want to, but that type of assault, whether you are a child or an adult, does not wash away. It is not like it is a fog in your brain. Those memories are unfortunately some of the clearest and vividest, and they're the most vivid. And I remember the smell. I remember the way this person walked. I remember how his body moved. I remember so much detail. And I often wonder what happened to this person. I don't know if he went to jail. I don't know if he went on to touch any other little girls, but I wondered, and over the years, off and on, I have prayed for. At one point, I was like, Lord, I pray that he sees himself and I don't know, but I also pray for the people that may have gone through what I've gone through by his hands. Um, whew, okay, I just wanted to get through this and not really, really cry. Probably will after I get out of this video. But if you know someone who has gone through such a thing, male and female, be kind. If you have not experienced it, don't judge. It is it can be a debilitating feeling. It is paralyzing because for so long, at least for me, I thought it was my fault. And I felt I had disappointed my mother. Um, it took me probably and this is sad to admit, probably my early 40s to just be able to be okay and sit in it and realize it was not my fault. It was not anything I did. This is the broken brain, as I say, of this person. Um, but, I'm grateful that I'm better now. Um, just thought of another story. Story for another time. It'll be about my therapy sessions. How I almost got locked up. Okay, so, but I wanted to tell this story because don't be ashamed. People, adults who do things to other adults, to children, violation. I don't. It's not your fault. Um, I encourage you, if you are still dealing with it. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how long ago it was. Talk to somebody. Learn how to find coping mechanisms. Because, like I said, I remember a smell, and there have been times over the year, excuse me, I've walked past